Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tyrone Carr. Most people know me as Ty, and I'm the Director of Alumni Diversity Initiatives here at Ohio University's Alumni Association. I have the privilege of coordinating today's events with 1983 graduate Brandon Smith, my colleagues in the University Advancement, the Scripps School of Journalism, and the Division of Diversity and Inclusion. One of my responsibilities include working with the Ebony Bobcat Network and being the liaison between the Office of the President and EBN. I would now like to introduce you to the President of EBN, Ms. Valerie Biggs Hill.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Valerie Biggs Hill, and I am the president of the Ebony Bobcat Network. Unfortunately, you can't see me, but hopefully you can hear me. Today's EBN Connects was planned as a live event, but due to COVID-19, we are making this virtual and more the norm today. Our panel will feature 4 distinguished Bobcats and Posties, all working at the Post and making huge contributions at the same time in 1982 through 1983. Our moderator today is also a Bobcat and a recent graduate from the Scripps School of Journalism. Without further ado, I will turn this over to our moderator, J.L. Curvin.
Thank you, Ms. Biggs Hill. First off, good morning, everyone. Well, good afternoon. My name is J.L. Curvin. I'm a recent graduate of OU. I graduated back in August. And today I am currently at the Louisville Courier-Journal in Louisville, Kentucky. But I would like to welcome everyone to EBN Connects Black Posties. Before we get started, I'd like to tell everyone that today's event is being recorded, and this recording of this session will be posted on the Ohio Alumni Association YouTube page. Also, let me provide a few instructions for participation. First, we invite you to place any questions that you may have for the panelists in the chat/Q&A section, and we will get to as many questions as we have time for. Trust me, we will get to your questions. Due to the limited time that we have today, though, we will have a fantastic conversation, and even though, we can go as long as we want, because it's a small group. Let's get everything that we want to get done today. But enough chat. I would like to introduce our fantastic panel that we have today. Let's get started off with first Miss Marie Andreen. Miss Marie Andreen is the Senior Corporate Counsel for the Progressive Group of Insurance Companies in Cleveland. Then we have Miss Edwina Blackwell Clark, who is the Senior Director of Communications for the Alzheimer's Association in Ohio. We have Mr. Brandon G. Smith, the Director of Partnerships and Business Development for the Encyclopedia Britannica. And then we have Dr. Byron P. White, who is the Associate Provost of Urban Research and Community Engagement at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. So first off, I want to welcome all of our fantastic guests, and I would like to give each one the floor to sort of, tell them what they do and also why they decide to choose Ohio University as their undergrad. So let's start off with Miss Andreen. Oh, you're muted.
How many times does that happen over the last 18 months? I'm sorry, I apologize. My name is Marie Adrian, and I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, went to Shaker Heights High School, and I worked on the newspapers in junior high and high school. So I knew I wanted to pursue journalism as a career, and OU was the perfect place. It was about 3 hours from home and had a wonderful reputation for journalism. OU journalism grads are doing wonderful and great and inspirational things in the communications world. So it was kind of a no-brainer. I always wanted to go to OU.
Great, and then Ms. Clark, how about you?
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Edwina Blackwell Clark, and I'm the Senior Director of Communications for the Alzheimer's Association in the state of Ohio. And I chose OU because I was pretty decent at writing, and but I really wasn't thinking about a journalism career. I actually was thinking about public relations, and my sequence was PR. As just as Marie said, they had a great reputation, a great in-state. It was a great in-state option. And also, I was a little bit familiar with the campus because my next door neighbor had gone to Ohio University, and I had an older cousin who had gone to Ohio University. And so those various factors are the reasons why I chose Ohio University.
How about you, Mr. Smith?
Hi, I'm Brandon Smith. I am currently the Director of Partnerships and Business Development for Encyclopedia Britannica Group, which consists of the Encyclopedia Britannica and Merriam-Webster's dictionary. And my role is really to monetize, license, and distribute all the content that's produced by those entities. How I chose Ohio University was, I'm not a journalism major, wasn't a journalism major. I was actually a broadcast management and administration sequence major, but I knew nothing about Ohio U. A friend of mine, my brothers, went to OU, and I was really interested in radio and wanted to be a radio announcer and had some interest in television production. And he told me that, hey, if you went to the school, you could be on the air your freshman year. You had students working at the television station, the radio station, and had never been to Ohio before. Went to visit the campus and got a chance to see all the facilities. And I was like, and I met some really, really nice people that helped me explain what the school is all about and the programs that were there. And I said, hey, this is a no-brainer. I want to go to school here. So I got in, and the rest is history. So.
Fantastic. And then last, of course, but not least, Dr. White, how about you?
Sure. I grew up in, are you hearing me twice?
Clear on my end.
Okay. All right. So I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, and I knew I wanted to be a journalist, I think, sophomore year in high school. I applied to 2 universities, OU and Northwestern. I got into both, but I also got into Honors Traditional College at OU, and that was the thing that tipped the scale. And I actually remember getting a call from Northwestern after I turned them down, saying, we really don't understand why you go to Ohio University instead of Northwestern. Well, I within about 3 years at Northwestern had lost its accreditation for its journalism school. So I ended up making the right choice and certainly a better school.
Absolutely. OU is always the right choice to go. But all 4 of you ended up at OU, and all 4 of you ended up at the Post. There's plenty of different things to do on OU's campus, but you decided to work for the campus newspaper. And I'm curious, what was your journey there? When did you first hear about it? And ultimately, what made it feel like it was for you? So let's start with Mr. Smith on this question.
So my journey was a little different. I wasn't a journalism major. Being a radio television major, I did a lot of things on campus. I did end up working at WOUB Radio, AM and FM, and I was taking classes during the summer between my sophomore and junior year, and I ran into a friend of mine from my freshman year dorm. His name is Jeff Coder. And Jeff, and I was like, look, man, I gotta get a job. I need to make some money. And he said, hey, look, why don't you look at coming to work for the Post and add sales? We have a spot open, and I know the business manager, and I definitely could put you on. So I applied and interviewed and got the job, and went through a whole training program a few weeks before the school year started, and took off running, selling advertising for the newspaper. So my focus is on the business side, but I did do some writing, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on too.
Looking forward to it. How about you, Mrs. Clark?
Well, it was interesting because my counselor at OU happened to know the editor of my hometown newspaper in Springfield, Ohio. And he was really trying to gear me towards a career in journalism. And so he suggested that I go back home, have a conversation with the newspaper editor, and possibly think about the Post. And so I actually did that in the summer of my sophomore year. And the editor said, "Oh, you got to work for the Post. Go work for the Post, get some clips, and I might have an internship for you the next summer." And that was really my motivation. And so I followed his advice. I went to the Post, I got some clips, and I got an internship. And it was so interesting that the newspaper, my hometown newspaper, was owned by Cox. And after I graduated, I ended up spending 25 years with the company.
Yes, that definitely, you love to hear stories about the Post, providing career opportunities and internship opportunities. I feel like that's a reason why a lot of people get into it, because it's a fantastic way to kick off your career.
Yeah.
But how about you, Miss Adrian?
I think when I got to OU, one of the things that I was most impressed with was the fact that the Post hit the streets first thing in the morning. It was a daily college newspaper, and that's pretty rare. So I knew I wanted to work on the Post and just knocked on the door, and they shoved copy in my hand and said, "Yeah, proofread this." And that was how I started. I was a little surprised with the process and how much time it would take to really understand the process and just stay up really, really late. So that was something that I learned a lot about, just in terms of being really determined and being driven so that you can actually reach your goals. Because I think when I first started working at the Post, I was thinking, really, I have to stay here till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. Oh my God. And after a while, it just became just what you did, what you had to do. And so I started working at the Post as a freshman, and I worked at the Post until I graduated. And it was great experience. I have wonderful memories, and I do it all again.
It's amazing to hear that about the Post being a daily, because now it's more digital. The only print comes out on a Thursday, and I used to help out with that Thursday edition, and you're right, you'd be there through 2, 3 in the morning. So to do that on a daily basis, plus classes, is unbelievable. But Dr. White, what was it about the Post that stood out to you, and especially in your case being the first African American editor-in-chief there? Oh, you're muted, Dr. White. Oh, Dr. White, you're muted.
Marie, did I just see you do that? I am in a new location, and the tech's been sketchy, and so it just kicked me off, and I apologize for popping in and out and getting in late. So I have two credits to being at the Post. One is I was fortunate enough to have done an internship at the Toledo Blade the summer before I came to OU, and the managing editor there, Bill Day, who's now deceased, really took me under his wing, and he told me, if you want to be a journalist, then the day you get on that campus, you better go to the Post and sign up, and you better be at the Post every moment of your college career. And I said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Day." So that's really the reason I showed up. But my grandfather is the other reason, and I'll tell this very quickly. And I think maybe Oli and Winna kind of knows the story, Brandon May. My freshman year, I covered Student Senate with Julie Skur. and two freshmen, we thought we was stuff because we had this prime beat, that we shared. Sophomore year, Julie decided to cover something else, and I said, fine, I'll just cover Student Senate. It's all good. So I signed up to cover the Student Senate beat, and I wasn't given that beat. I was given the Women, Minority, and International Affairs beat. And I didn't realize until days later that the reason I wasn't given that beat is because the student body had elected Greg Moore, its first Black Student Senate president. And the editors of the Post at that time felt like a Black journalist couldn't objectively cover the administration of a Black Student Senate president, let alone that white students had been covering white Student Senate presidents for years. This was blatantly racist. And I remember talking to my friends, my boys, like, I was angry. They were like, forget this, man, you're out of here. We don't have to put up with this. Go start your own newspaper. And I called my grandfather that night because I was reared by my grandparents. And I told him what happened. And he said, well, you know what you have to do, right? I said, absolutely. I'm already 1 foot out the door. He's like, no. You're going to run that paper. You're going to be the editor of the Post. And I stayed and was able to persevere and get that position because my grandfather kicked me in the butt and said, no, that you're going to persevere there. So I credit William Hanks and Bill Day with my tenure at the Post.
Thank you, William Hanks and Bill Day, because we're definitely glad you stuck around and created the legacy that you did for our paper. So, touching on that, we still see that happen nowadays where, editors feel like, Black reporters, minority reporters can't cover certain subjects with objectivity and non-bias. As you all settled into your roles at the Post, how did your race and, mindset and experiences help you in your various positions? Let's start with Mrs. Clark.
Well, that's a really good question. I was a general assignment reporter when I was at the Post. And I think every journalist has a lens and sees things differently. I mean, we absolutely report from an objective perspective, but when you think about the story that you want to tell, and when you think about the opportunity you have because you're the only reporter that's there that's covering something or that's doing a profile of someone or something like that. And so you absolutely bring your sensibilities, what you want to convey in an accurate fashion, of course. But race was not an issue for me because I saw Marie in management. I saw Byron in management. I mean, we had a diverse newsroom and staff where you had African Americans in leadership positions. And so I thought that was how it always is. I didn't understand that until I left and went into other newsrooms where that was not the case. So it just was not difficult, at least for me at that time as a reporter, because we had African Americans in leadership.
Absolutely. And Mr. Smith, your role was a little bit different because you were on the business side. How did that sort of affect the way you did your job, and especially with the Post now having more some financial support from the university? Like, what was that like, as a student having to have that responsibility?
For me, I mean, I had two different roles. When I first started, it was in advertising sales. So I was used to, calling people and, dealing with rejection. And I think it had really little or nothing to do with, my race, but it was really the fact that, some kid who's in college was trying to, call on local businesses in Athens to get them to advertise. So I had to do things like I couldn't go into a business in jeans and t-shirt or shorts. So I really had to, kind of dress myself up a little bit, walked around campus with a briefcase so I was really trying to make myself look very, very professional. And that really helped me open some doors to get in to start making my pitch around why the Post was a viable source for advertising. So, I knocked on a lot of doors. I mean, a lot. and at that time there were quite a few local businesses. Obviously, bars were a big part of life in Athens, but there were other businesses as well. So I just really kind of just kept knocking on doors and making my pitch, understanding what the audience was for the Post, all the research data, circulation, and I just really knew all my facts, and I just continued to persist and call on people, and they finally gave me opportunity to advertise, and the paper produced results for them, and that kept going on and enabled me to have a pretty successful career in ad sales, and which then transitioned into a role as a credit manager. And a credit manager was nothing but, well, I remember having a conversation with Kristen Sheets, and I was doing a really good job in ad sales, and my friend had gotten promoted to sales manager, and she pulled me aside and said, look, we're having a problem with advertisers not paying us. I see that you're really good talking to advertisers, and I'd like you to consider being what we call our credit manager. And the credit manager is really a glorified version of being a bill collector. So in addition to my responsibilities of selling advertising, I also had to deal with advertisers that did not pay. So
Yeah,
I have a lot of funny stories around that too, but that's kind of how I operated as a what I call really working. We're all working professionals.
I love that, because like it was so different when I was there. It's just like we had that taken care of for us. We really were in the dark about the finances. So to think about a student having all that responsibility and still, doing the day-to-day and making sure that the paper is on the stands and that money and the advertisers coming in is really quite phenomenal. But Dr. White, you talked a little bit earlier about how you were affected by the backwards thinking of the editors at the time. When you finally became editor-in-chief, how were you able to sort of change those, policies and, for the better?
So you said backwards thinking, but that's fine. That works. I think that so being in an editor position, and Marie probably can attest to this, I think it's more of prodding and pushing and checking, and journalism is this craft where you're objective and you have biased human beings claiming to be objective, and the best journalists I've seen are not ones who believe they're objective, but who know their biases well enough to check them as they do their work. And I think one of the things for those of us of color, especially African Americans who were in leadership, was just having to push there. I remember a story, and I think I might have been campus editor, so this might have been my junior year. There was, and everybody would know, there was a rape or an attempted rape in Voight Hall. And we printed a story that described the suspect as a tall Black man, period. And I just remember just being irate, right? It's like every brother at this campus is a tall Black man. Like, exactly. This is not useful to anyone. But it didn't make any sense to many of my white colleagues, right? It's like, what are you talking about? So I think having, there's just that role of pushing, checking, correcting. That's, part of the work, at least at that time, that, we would often find ourselves having to do.
Yeah. I'm loving this discussion already, because like, even though this was, in the past, there's still lessons that could be learned today, because this is still things that you're seeing in the industry, vague descriptions, improper uses of mugshots when it's not even relevant. So it's still unbelievable to hear that you were still dealing with that back then. Ms. Adrian, for you joining the Post, to see that the diversity, what was that like for you in your role, and what was your role at the Post?
I think in terms of seeing the diversity, I think my first year, it was probably just Byron and I, right? I don't think there was anyone there to serve as a role model. So I think what was important was to be there, to be visible, to have an opinion, to get to know people. There were folks who I think had never really had a conversation with an African American person before. So just diversity of thought was so important to maybe subtly and maybe not so subtly change some ideas and some thinking was really important, especially when you're working at a newspaper where you have a responsibility to get the news out and to get it right. I also appreciated the opportunity to write an editorial and maybe share something from an African American or Black perspective. So for me, it was very important to have a voice and to have a different voice on campus. I remember I interviewed Congressman Louis Stokes for the Post, and I think, gosh, he was such an important part of the Cleveland community. I believe a lot of folks may or may not have known how much power and just how influential he was in Washington, D.C. So just maybe giving some exposure to people who might not ordinarily have that exposure in Athens, Ohio. So I think your other question was, what roles did I have at the Post? And I think initially you start off on the copy desk, and I did that. I was a staff writer. I was a features writer and a features editor. And back in the 80s, we had a portion of the paper called Section 2. And it was a really wonderful opportunity to learn layout and design, and photographs and were prominently displayed. So it was a great combination of words and pictures. I was a magazine journalism major, so it was a perfect fit for me. I loved the opportunity to do Section 2. It came out on Fridays. And I also was State House reporter. So it was in that capacity that I had the opportunity to interview Congressman Stokes. And I mentioned doing late nights, maybe every 10 days or every 2 weeks, you would be late night editor. And it was your responsibility to stay awake and put the paper together and deliver it to the Athens Messenger. I remember it was always funny because there seemed to be a competition, like who could get the paper to bed the earliest. And, and you're like praying that there wouldn't be a late breaking news. Or sometimes you were happy if there was, because you would have the opportunity to redesign the front page, which was a challenge. But it was, I just have a lot of really fun memories of drinking lots and lots of coffee and staying up really late.
Yeah, lots and lots of coffee. Absolutely. The one thing that makes the Post very special is it's one of the, in terms of professional development, it's really one of the best organizations on campus, because not often do you see 19, 18-year-old kids really doing the work that they're, in college to get their degree for. Mr. Smith, as you progressed into your professional career, in what ways do you feel like the Post prepared you? Oh, you're muted.
Old players and new technology, man. So it helped me in a lot of different ways. Just by my work in ad sales, my work as a credit manager built up my skill set on how to communicate and approach advertisers about the viability of the paper, which then I was able to translate that into my first job, moving back to New York, because I'm originally from New Jersey. And I was able to land an ad sales position at the Wall Street Journal, probably one of the few African Americans in the ad sales sector of the paper. And, and I think everything that I did at the Post really translated really easily for me in my new role as a working professional after college. I mean, I learned everything about, doing my research on an advertiser, knowing the circulation of the paper, the audience, the research of the audience. I was able to communicate all that and really make my pitch to the folks at the Journal. It really showed that I really could do the job, and I was able to do it. So everything around that really came from my experience at the Post. Everything.
Fantastic. How about you, Ms. Blackwell-Clark?
I think the experiences were great because it really taught me how to research a topic and to bring various sources of things together into a story that is coherent. Now, I'm not saying all my stories were great. Marie and others had to edit, but I'm saying, but it developed those skills. It developed those skills. And once again, at that point, I still thought I was going into public relations, which I did not at the time. But I figured that it still could help me because I could understand how news decisions are made, what was important to newsrooms and that sort of thing. And so when it was time for graduation, I had some skills there that I could show that I could report and write. I was able to have those clips. I had clips from my internship, and I was happy because the year that we graduated was the year that Scripps pumped millions of dollars into and renamed the School of Journalism, and they wanted to hire some graduates. And so I was like, yes, I'm here. And so Byron and myself and David Ivanovich were all hired at the Cincinnati Post. And so it helped me to land my first job in a major city. And so it was great experience.
Speaking of the Cincinnati Post, it's a defunct paper now, but Byron, Dr. White, you were the youngest editorial page editor in the country at the time, and the only African American at a major metro daily. So what was that position like for you, working there in a big city like Cincinnati, two-paper city at the time, battling back with the Enquirer? What was that transition like for you from the Post to that position?
First of all, I'm fine being called Byron if that is easier for you. So first, this is a never told story of my sister Edwina. And so I will say I give Edwina credit on two fronts for my success at the Post. The first is, even though she says all three of us went to the Post, Edwina graduated a semester earlier than the rest of us. So she was hired by the Post. And really, let's put it this way, if she hadn't been as successful as she was in that first semester, I don't know if the rest of us would have followed. So by the time I got there, she was the darling of the Post. Yes, you were. So that's number one. The other one is, I will tell you, and I'm sure she may recall this, I would say maybe within a couple years of my getting to the editorial page editor position was kind of a fluke. It was a small editorial page, 3 people. I had written a series of articles. This is late 80s. So I'd written a series of articles on the 20th anniversary of the 67 riots in Cincinnati. And it got some attention. And I was kind of riding high on that. And I remember Edwina, one night, we were on an overnight shift, and she pulled me into the library and basically knocked me upside the head and said, "What are you doing?" Yeah. And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Just because you wrote this series, you think you can walk around here? You don't have to work hard. You don't have to write." She was really calling me out because I thought I was all that. And like every other GA reporter, it was really time to hustle. Mm-hmm. And I will say I had to double down after that confrontation. And part of the benefit of that was I really wanted to be an editorial writer. And I was able to get this rotating position on the editorial board. And that rotating position became 2 years because I talked my way into a second year. And by the time I was at the second year, the editorial page editor was leaving the paper. She was becoming the head of the editorial page at the Washington Bureau for Scripps Howard. Well, there were only 3 folks on the editorial board. The editorial cartoonist didn't want to be the editorial writer. The associate editor was ready to retire, and everyone else who had been on this rotation had only done it a year. Because I taught my way into 2 years, I had more experience on the editorial board than anyone else who wanted the job. And the editor basically offered it to me. And I remember thinking, man, I was 26. I'm like, I can't be the editorial page editor. And I literally called every Black columnist I knew that I had met at NABJ. I called Clarence Page. I called Bill Raspberry. I called these folks and just said, you don't know me. Should I take this job? And I remember Clarence Page, another alumnus, saying to me, yes, fool. What are you talking about? Of course you're going to take this job. I don't care if you think you're ready for the job. So I got there on a fluke and on the shoulders of alumni and others who really, had my back and encouraged and pushed and nudged, and which is one of the benefits of having gone to OU.
Yeah, that Bobcat network always, strong as it can be. Clarence Page, that's always someone, you want to take advice from. And then it's fantastic that you had a friend like Edwina to get you in check to make sure that you were, back on the grind. Marie, I know that you said that in college that, you were a magazine journalism major, but you eventually went to law school at Rutgers. What was behind that decision, and what made you want to make that transition?
I think I always thought I would get an advanced degree, whether it was a master's in journalism or, I was open. So, in fact, I remember I got this letter from the Columbia Journalism School, and it got me thinking about grad school. And at that point, I was working at the Virginian Pilot and the Ledger Star newspapers in Norfolk, Virginia. And I was lucky right out of OU, I did actually get to work at a magazine. I worked at the once venerable Newsweek magazine back in the 80s. And I was a fact checker. And that was a really wonderful experience. And then I moved on to Virginia. And while I was there, I was covering education and then started covering the courts. And I always had an interest in law. One of the really cool things about OU is that I had the opportunity to take a lot of law classes. Of course, we all had to take communications law in order to graduate, but I also took constitutional law, administrative law, and business law. So it was an interest that I had at OU. And then once I was covering courts every day, I was kind of fascinated. And I decided, well, okay, court TV looks pretty cool. So I'm sure they could use a great AP and I really did not want to be on camera. I just thought it would be a great place to work behind the scenes. So law school, I decided to apply, and I didn't want to go back to Cleveland, even though Cleveland's a wonderful city and that's where I am now and my family's here. But I really felt if I was going to pursue court TV and kind of a mix between journalism and law, that I really needed to be in the New York area. So that was why I went to Rutgers. And I learned so much in law school, and I would advocate law school for anybody because you can do so much with a law degree. You don't have to be a litigator, even though one of my first jobs out of law school, I was an assistant prosecuting attorney for Cuyahoga County. And it just made sense. I had a really strong writing background, thanks to the Post and thanks to the journalism school, but strong communication skills will take you anywhere you want to go. So I don't necessarily think I went to law school with the desire to practice law. It was really just about kind of doing law and communications. So I think maybe I thought about it a little bit while I was at OU, and then definitely after I'd worked about 3 years. So there were 3 years between undergrad and law school. But a really good decision, even though during law school there were times when I thought I was nuts for doing it, but it was, I learned a lot, and I would, again, strongly recommend law school to any journalism major. I mean, there's so many journalists who have law degrees, like Sunny Hostin and Geraldo Rivera, and the New York Times reporters who cover the Supreme Court, Linda Greenhouse and Adam Liptak, all have law degrees. So it works. It's a really good marriage if you want to write about something you love and be very knowledgeable and know where to get the information, which I think is important for any journalist. So you find something you love, and for me it was the law. And I also did a lot of writing, legal writing, and it was a good experience all the way around.
Fantastic. Cool. Personally, I haven't thought about grad school or law school yet, but the way you made it seem is definitely compelling, and I'm definitely walking away from this conversation with a new perspective on it. So thank you.
Call me if you want to talk.
Absolutely, absolutely. I definitely will take you up on that offer. All four of you had fantastic, interesting, and different experiences at the Post. And during the thick of it, you're missing out on parties. Your social life takes a hit. It's hard to keep up with your studies. It's just so much of a time commitment to it. During it, did you ever think the payoff would be as great as it's been for you now in the careers that you were able to have thanks to your work at the Post? Let's start with Brian.
Yeah, I think, for me, once I decided to really dig in, so for me, the big sacrifice was I had walked onto the track team and, was okay, well enough to compete a little bit. And I ran hurdles, 400-meter hurdles. And I remember after my beat down by my grandfather, thinking, man, I'm gonna have to quit track. Like, I can't do this job and be on the track team. And it was, it was really tough decision. At the time, I thought I'm gonna be a Rhodes Scholar. I really wanted to, Meg Cohn at the time, who was the director of Honors Tutorial College, had primed me for this idea that I was going to be a Rhodes Scholar. And so it's an athletic and academic scholarship, and I remember thinking, I can't do that and excel at the Post. So that was really a decision to go deep. But I think some of it was, one, we were seeing folks, I mean, all over the country who were alumni and former Posties who were, in really prominent roles. Including journalists of color like Clarence Page, right? So we all were at OU because we knew the school brought that value, and at the Post because we knew we were getting that kind of training. And like Edwina said, the investment that Scripps Howard was making, I was like, man, this is the right time to be here in the right place. So yeah, I left OU. In fact, I'll share this. So I begged the Alumni Association every event I'm at to put my class year as 1984, because that's when I left the university and that's when everybody, but Edwina knows this too. You know too much. Stop laughing. I actually graduated in 87. So I left the university without without having completed. I owe Dr. Rhodes a paper in African American Studies and one other paper because I was the editor of the Post. It was the full-time job, and I actually made a calculation my senior year that in many ways being the editor of the Post and having was going to be a better benefit to my career than that degree in the short run. And so I put all in there. I ended up getting my degree in '87 because, and I actually went to live in Dr. Childs' basement for a month. I took a leave of absence, lived in her basement for a month to finish those papers, and finally get my degree 3 years later. So yeah, I was banking everything on being the editor of the Post, and it did pay off.
I do not blame you. I know personally.
I'm not suggesting that anybody listening, any students, do not. It's not a route to take. Finish, complete. Be like at Winter. Finish early. I'm not the model.
We're so glad that you finished, but yeah, I think we can all relate to, a few papers got turned in late, working at the Post. It just, it makes you make those tough decisions every now and then. Edwina, for you, what was it like balancing class and the Post and, just, being a journalist on campus?
It wasn't that terribly difficult to balance because once again, I was just a reporter. I didn't have management responsibilities, but it clearly was more intense than other quote unquote work study jobs that I had, where, one semester I was doing a newsletter in one of the university offices, and I was like, oh yeah, I can, that was easy compared to the intensity of what was required at the Post. But I was able to juggle. But I will say that it wasn't until I left that I really recognized and appreciated that rigorous training that I had at the Post, particularly after I left and ended up going into newspapers as a career, which once again was not my intention in the beginning. But then you really, really appreciate what you went through during that time and how it really could benefit your future career.
Yeah. Touching on that, Marie, do you feel the same way? Like looking back, like sort of, getting through that, balancing, learning that time management, how did that help you moving forward?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Time management skills, organizational skills were definitely developed at the Post. And I think probably most importantly, meeting deadlines. Oh my God, I definitely remember the days when you were battling the clock to get your story written on time. And that carried over into my career as an attorney. I still have lots and lots of deadlines. A lot of our legal positions are argued through briefs, and we file lots of motions. And if your motion isn't in on time, it may not be considered. So meeting deadlines was a skill that I learned at the Post. Also thinking on your feet, interviewing people, asking probing and follow-up questions. All those great journalism skills translate really well to the law because, in both professions, your goal is to get to the truth and follow up when someone gives you maybe not the whole entire answer. You need to draw information out of people, both as a journalist and as an attorney. So I'm very thankful for the skill set that I developed by working at the Post.
Brandon, I know a lot of your time was spent, dealing with advertisers and people maybe not necessarily involved with like stories or the paper, but like you had to deal with that on the business side. How did you manage that, and in what ways do you feel like that prepared you for your career?
Great question. So a couple of things for me. So in addition to working at the Post, I was also working at WOUB FM. So I had a weekly air shift doing jazz, and there was a program we had called Jazz Tonight. So I was also a radio announcer. So so I really value the experience, the actual practical hands-on work experience at the university. I was not, I'll be honest with you, I was not a great student. But I did enough and I graduated and stayed over, all the breaks to our credit hours that I may have missed or classes that I may have flunked out on or didn't do well, but also continue to work. And I kind of wanted to, and all that, Marie talked about deadlines. Actually on the ad sales side, we had deadlines because we had to provide all the ad copy and ads for the paper. We had to have it by a certain time. So I had to deal with deadlines every day, and we all had to deal with RJ Sunday. Remember RJ? You guys remember RJ? And RJ was pretty hardcore, particularly on the ad sales side. So we really, really had to meet our deadlines because if we didn't, it was not a good thing. So so I spent a lot of time really focusing more on working at the Post or working at WOUB than class, particularly in my senior year. I was like, once I knew I had enough credit hours, I was like, look, man, I'm gonna try to do as much as I can. And I wanted to kind of go back to real quickly about, in addition to, working at OUB and working in ad sales and credit manager for the Post, Marie actually gave me my first shot at actually writing for the Post. So little known fact, because, being the Section 2 editor, and again, I was really into music. And everyone knew on campus that I was really a big music kid. So Marie gave me an opportunity to write a couple of album reviews, a couple of concert reviews for the paper. And she was the editor for me. So she gave me my first editorial shot at, and that was all through the Post. So I have to give her props for that. So, but all those experiences really kind of, helped me throughout making pivots in my career. I could always go back to those skills that I learned and communicating, both writing, presenting, presentation skills, research, all those things I got from my experience, really focusing on OUB. So at ODU. So I put a lot of credence to getting the experience. The academic stuff was great, and it gave me that rubber stamp out there. But it was really the work experience that I had on campus that really made the difference for me.
Yeah, and I just want, if we're throwing out props, and I know just real quick, Brandon helped save the Post. And this is what I mean. So my junior year, a new newspaper, maybe it was sophomore year, opened up. And that was the Athens News. And it was a new weekly, and it was competing for advertising by basically saying we're a real newspaper that's just a little college newspaper. And my interview for the editor was really built around we need to grow up as a newspaper. And that advertising sales team, my senior year, hustled. They had to, it was a very serious competitive situation. And Brandon, who, as you can tell, is just innovative and quick and really was a big part of that sales team that, kind of reset with RJ's direction, really reset the financials for the newspaper. And the university then wasn't poised to bail us out. So we had to sell advertising. So I just want to just point out, Brandon, it's not surprising to me that he's in the role he's in. He was excellent then.
Yeah, I agree. I remember that. Yeah, that was a major save.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that till Athens News. Are they? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Man, we used to kill them out there in the marketplace. It was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah, the Post is still killing them. We still got that on lock. But I know in college one of the most important things is having support from the people that came before you and professors. I know I certainly did. During you all's time on campus, who were some of the people that were influential to the opportunities that you got, and just someone that you could lean your head on? And then also, what would be your advice to this new generation coming up? So let's start with Byron.
Wow. I mean, it's not too much to say this crew right here. I for a long time I wanted to be a publisher, and Edwina was a publisher, and so I know her career is certainly was certainly an inspiration. I remain fairly close to the host staff from my year and the year after. In fact, I just had lunch with Mark Davidson, who was my managing editor in DC a few weeks ago. Um, and I know some of those former editors like Alan Miller, who just is retiring as managing editor of the Columbus Dispatch, watching their careers, certainly an inspiration. Uh, as we've all been mentored by Clarence Page, it was great to have gotten to the Chicago Tribune and been on the editorial board with him and kind of been a peer. So, those are some of the folks who have really drove me to in my career, and not just within journalism, but outside of journalism.
Marie?
My advisor at OU, Professor Sandra Haggerty, I could always go in and talk to her. Her door was always open. That was very important to me. And both at OU and after OU, I am very grateful to Professor Tom Hodson. He wrote me a really wonderful recommendation letter to get into law school. So I will be forever grateful for his recommendation and also his advice as I was transitioning into law school and looking at the possibility of combining law and journalism. So I'd have to say, again, everyone on this call, I mean, I think we're all there for each other, and I would agree with Byron on that. It just was a very friendly environment, knowing that there were people who cared about you and you could talk to if you needed them for anything. And I can truly say that if you needed anything from any of these people on the call, they were there for you. So that is very true.
Who were some of the people in your corner, Brandon?
Well, aside from, the panelists here were definitely on my corner, and also other students. One of the things that I felt I came away with leaving campus, I had a sense of confidence about myself that I can really go out and tackle the world. And I think a lot of us, we were all hype men for each other. We really kind of boosted each other up when we really felt, it was a tough day for all of us. And that really helped carry me through just getting through college. It was just that it was really, there were moments where it was really, really challenging, I think, we could all share stories, but the fact that we all could support each other, say, hey, you're the man, you're the woman, you're doing a great job, keep it going, really, really made the difference. And then also, from a professor side, probably a key professor for me was Dr. Charles Buzz Cliff in the School of Radio and Television. And he was some person that really not only followed my academic career, but also even after college, I would run into him at conferences in the cable television industry almost annually. And we would spend a lot of time just catching up and giving some words of encouragement. And that really, really made a difference. And then the message that I certainly want to send to students that are out there is that always bet on yourself. Always bet on yourself. Take chances, take opportunities, be persistent. And while you're, going through your career, be nice and be cool with everybody, because you never know. Because there were people that I was really, really friendly with, that an opportunity may have came up. Hey, someone gave me, vouched for me, gave me really good words of encouragement and support, validated things that I did. And that just makes such a difference. So just, be nice to people, man. Just be nice. And work hard and work very, very hard and believe in yourself. Always bet on yourself. Always bet on yourself.
Well, I think that is a fantastic way to end on my section. First off, I would love to thank all of our panelists. And now I'd like to open it up to our viewers. If anyone has some questions for our fantastic guest today, please let me see who's asking questions in the chat. Do we have anybody who would like to ask a question? If not, I still got plenty of questions. So, I mean, we definitely go into 1:30, y'all. But okay, we have Miss Biggs Hill. The floor is yours.
I would first like to thank all of you. It has been informative, inspiring, entertaining. It's just been absolutely wonderful. And I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy careers to spend with all of us. I want to hope that you will stay engaged with Ohio University, with all that is happening there, and the students can truly, truly benefit from your wisdom, from your stories. It's just been absolutely wonderful, and thank you. I also want to thank Dr. DeShiel, Ty Carr, and everyone that participated in this awesome panel discussion. And our moderator, you were absolutely outstanding. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, definitely was looking forward to this. If that is all from everybody, I do have one more question that we would love to get to. Just sort of, let's look back on memory lanes. What's some of your favorite memories while working at the Post? Let's start with Edwina.
My favorite memory working at the Post. I actually think my favorite memory, once again, is coming into that environment and seeing competent, confident African Americans in leadership roles. That's what it's supposed to be like. That's what you're supposed to see in an integrated newsroom. And once again, after I left, I could really appreciate what was built there, really what was built there. And that is, when you think about the need for diversity in newsrooms today, that's my favorite memory, that I saw that in college and was able to benefit from that and know that's how newsrooms should reflect today.
I see that we do have a question now. Damon, we're going to give you a chance to have the floor. The floor is yours. I think you're mute if you're asking your question. Give him a few more seconds. Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Can you all hear me now?
technical difficulties, but
Can you hear me?
if it does work, we'll definitely let him ask that
I
question.
think we can hear him now.
I can hear him.
Oh,
hearing
you, but you're low.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Hello, everyone. I'm Damon Scott, and I am a proud 1989 alumnus of our great alma mater. So I came along just after I think most of you all were there. Sounds like you all were there early to mid 80s, and I was there mid to late 80s. So unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to know any of you, but I feel like I've gotten to know you just in this last, little more than an hour. And I am so impressed just by all of the panelists. I do know Brandon and have got a chance to work with Brandon. And Brandon, I have a whole new respect for you. I already had respect for you, but that level has risen as a result of today. And the rest of our panelists, I'm just blown away at some of the things that you all have accomplished in your careers and what you have shared about the Post. And I also have a different perspective now on the Post because, when I was a student, for probably definitely my first 2 years, maybe even my first 3 years, the Post was just a newspaper to me, and that might be the case for a lot of students, which is unfortunate. I didn't realize the point was made earlier that it was it was rare at that time to have a daily undergraduate newspaper. I didn't know that. So that gives me, again, a whole new appreciation for the Post. And then my senior year, I became the president of the Black Student Union. And from that point on, I did not like the Post simply because they covered BSU. I'm sure as they should have, with a very critical eye, but a lot of times they were, they put us in the Post and they were talking about things that, we didn't necessarily want them to focus on with regard to BSU. But I'm so glad I've heard a different perspective from folks on the inside. I wish I had known the history that you all created when I was a student, but I'm glad to know it now. Thank you all so much. This has been a great event. And I want to echo Valerie Biggs Hills, our EBN National Board President. She said she wants everyone to stay engaged with the university. And I want to go a step further and say, we want you all to be engaged with the Ebony Bobcat Network. So if there is a local affiliate where you live, please reach out and get involved with it. And even if it's not a local affiliate where you live, you can still get involved in our current day virtual meeting. So we invite all of you to please come get involved with the Ebony Bobcat Network. Thank you all so much. This has been a great event.
Absolutely. That is a fantastic message. Today conversation has been fantastic. And, joining the Ebony Bobcat Network only allows more opportunities for discussions like this where we can, learn from each other. Looks like we have another question. Winsome, the floor is yours.
Hi again, everyone. I'm Winsome. I'm the director of the Multicultural Center. And like everyone else, I want to echo my thank you to the panel for just a really inspiring, insightful, and engaging conversation. And I'm hoping that the students who are on, that you're taking notes, particularly as you all are talking about transferable skills, because I have that discussion with them every day about what they're learning at the Post, what they're learning within their student organizations, their student groups, outside the classroom, and how they can use those skills later on. But one of the things I want to point out is, and you've all said it repeatedly, is that representation matters, and how you all felt at different times when you started working at the Post, how confident you were because you saw other Black people there. And that we should also think about that as a part of this conversation, that representation matters and that it's crucial. And that is even more of a reason I love this panel so much, is that our students are able to see what you all are doing and that you are successful and that you represent Black Bobcats and you are here for them and you can now be a resource for them. So I am always, always, always grateful and honored when I'm able to meet other Bobcats that I can always say to students, talk to so-and-so. They can help talk you through, oh, you want to go to law school, but you didn't do law courses? Oh, well, Marie, da-da-da. Okay, do you want to get into sales? But you were at the Post. Okay, here's Brandon, you name it. So I am always happy to have these kind of conversations and to get to meet people so that I always have references for students as they're looking to matriculate out into the real world. So thank you so much again for your time and your insights.
Well said, well said. I know that at times when we're, especially, as Black professionals, we can feel like we're in situations that are very unique, challenging, difficult. And it's just fantastic that we have this network to where it's like, hey, I went through this, you can get through it. This is how I did it. And I'm just really thankful that I was able to moderate this panel and meet all four of you and listen to your story and your advice today. If that's all we have from our panel, I will be more than happy to give you guys some extra time on your Fridays back.
I just want to throw in one piece up and just to say, I have I've been fortunate enough to have remain connected to the school, to the university, and to journalism. I was on Kathy Crindle, Dean Crindle's way back before she was provost, when she was on her advisory committee, and was on the journalism advisory committee under Director Stewart, and Director DeShiel has seen fit to keep me on, and so I also just want to I think that her tenure as director is really critical. It's a critical time for the university and the school, and to have an African American woman leading the School of Journalism is tremendous and much needed right now. And so I would just encourage everyone, as we, to rally behind her direction and her agenda, because I think it's going to benefit a number of students and the university overall. And I think we're already seeing her leadership do that. So I just wanted to give that plug.
Thank you, Byron. Appreciate that. And so you heard him. I need help trying to be a director during a pandemic. I mean, this has been an adventure, but I'm grateful for the help I've already received, and I'm still looking out for you. So thank you, Byron. I appreciate that.
Yes, let's help out Director DeShiel. She was fantastic for me when I was there. She was completely responsible for me knowing the law of journalism. So definitely we need to be giving her as much support as possible. I would like to pass it to Ms. Biggs Hill for our closer. But again, I would like to thank everyone that put together this panel. A lot of great people, Tyrone Carr, Ms. Biggs Hill, everybody that helped put this together panel. Wouldn't have been possible without them. But take it away, Ms. Biggs Hill.
You know what? I just saw a question in the chat box, and I think it's a really good question from Justice B. All of these people are media folk. What do they see as the future of media, particularly with the enrollment of Black students in J schools down? Anybody want to grab that from the media side?
Yeah, I can start. So I think that we're really moving into a digital world, a completely digital world. I think that the School of Journalism needs to kind of reimagine what journalism is, and more importantly, the economics around journalism and certain business models associated with sustaining a media enterprise moving forward. And I would encourage the School of Journalism, and actually even more importantly, the College of Communications, to revisit having a digital management focus or media business type of focus that will help create new ways in which we can take journalism forward and support it financially as well. So really, again, I was a broadcast management administration major, but I think now we should really focus on digital media administration, and particularly around the economics around producing journalism out there and supporting it financially. So I would encourage both the director and also the dean of communications to really start looking at bringing the business side, the economics around journalism to the forefront. So that's my take.
On that, we already have an online journalism degree that's going to be launched soon, and we're in the process. You all remember it used to be called Active 7 News. When you were on campus, when we did the daily newscast in a TV broadcast studio, well, the pandemic taught us that we don't have to do that anymore. And so we're making plans to shift that daily newscast that we've been doing to a streaming format. to help teach digital, and we have a lot to learn from those who are already doing that now in the industry. So we're working on it, but right now we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, trying to teach digital amid current budget situations and reorganizations, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So I have high hopes that we'll be more digital. And we have a podcasting certificate we just started. So we're teaching podcasting now. And so we're headed in that direction. Not as quickly as we'd like, because the pandemic really slowed us down. It's kind of hard to get day-to-day things done when you're scattered all over the country because you're working remotely. But it's on our to-do list. We're getting there.
One response I would give to that question, and it's very similar to what higher ed is going through in general. I'm a higher education administrator, and I think what is happening is that, journalism traditionally, as we thought about it when we were in school, right, was accumulating and pulling together information, data, voices, and interpreting them for the masses. And the idea was that because everyone couldn't talk to the mayor, everyone couldn't get the data, everyone didn't have, privy to the report. And so that's what it was. We were gathering knowledge, information, packaging it in a way to disseminate. Well, now, folks have access to the data and the information. The interpretation role is not as essential to what journalism is. But the opportunity, I think, is to deepen the connection to the voices. So it's not interviewing. We can actually see it and identify where the story is happening, what people are talking, where are the tables of decision that, within a community that maybe we haven't seen before. And I think that in many ways, young people of color have the kind of insight and innovation and creativity to really push that. So, I really think that journalism, we need to see it more as an innovation of elevating voice and information, as opposed to kind of packaging it. That's just not what's needed. And that requires a completely different way of thinking about the role of the journalist. But I think it's a role prime for young people of color. This is like made for them to dictate the terms of the next, what journalism looks like going forward. That storytelling role, the authenticity, the connection to voices is what young people of color create all the time. And so I think to the degree that Ohio University and other schools of journalism in particular can be places of fostering that kind of future thinking about what journalism is, using digital platforms and other technologies, will be ahead of the curve. And so I'm hoping that that's, where we'll see certainly the school going.
Absolutely. President Biggs Hill, would you like to close us out?
Jeremiah and Valerie, before you speak, I just want to put one more plug in. If you look over on the chat, you'll see a note from Robert Norton, who is the EBN membership chair, and he has included the JOT form, a link for the JOT form that you can use to become a member of your Ebony Bobcat network. So I just want to put one more plug in for EBN. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damon. Just listening to everyone, and I hope that I can make this brief, I'm so very impressed. And as Damon just shared the information relative to becoming a member of the Ebony Bobcat Network, I want all of you to understand that the Ebony Bobcat Network is one of the largest, most engaged Black alumni organizations from a majority college in this country. It's very important that we have your talent. that we have your voice, because at the end of the day, it's about making it better for the students at Ohio University. And that is a tall task because we're trying to affect the cultural climate at Ohio University. We're trying to contribute to the success of the students at Ohio University. They have the benefit of you, the generation that came before us, though many of them were accomplished, not to the degree of Black accomplishment now. And our students need to see that, and they need to hear that. So everyone that is part of this event today, I encourage you to become involved with EBN. We are doing fantastic things, and there are so many things that we can do. It's not about getting together for a party. It's not about getting together for the bar. Those are all things that are part of it, but that's such a small piece of it. We are trying to impact student success, and that is a broad and a tall order. Again, I want to thank all of you, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Dr. Secuban, Dr. Bruce, Tyrone Carr, all of the panelists. I have to shout out to Brandon because he has been persistent as a Black Postie in making sure that this effort moved forward. And I also want to share with you that Brandon is the Vice President of EBN Washington, D.C., and also serves as chair as the EBN National Awards Service Committee. So again, just a shout out to Brandon. I hope that I'm not leaving anyone out. Again, Dr. Dashiell, everyone that made this event the phenomenal success that it is. And again, this is part of what EBN does. Thank you so much.
Hey, can I just say one thing? I actually want to give a special shout out to Karen Bailey because Karen was the first person I approached about this idea. This took place in January of 2020, before the pandemic hit. And she was the one that really socialized the idea with various members of various areas within the university and got the support. So I would have to say that if it wasn't for Karen's support and the initiative to do this probably would not have happened. So I just want to give her a special thank you.
Thank you so much, Brandon. And Karen, I am so sorry. I definitely should have given you a shout out. Please don't beat me up behind that slight overlook. I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you.
Well, that concludes our wonderful panel today. Again, we really appreciate our panelists for their time, and we appreciate you for joining us. Hope that you have a wonderful rest of your Friday. And remember, join EBN. It's a great organization, and being a part of it allows for more opportunities for what went down today. So thank you again for joining us, and have a wonderful day.